In 1941, young Thai men join the army as new recruits in green uniforms. Each soldier states his name, while a photographer takes his picture with a bright flash. Later, the men sneak onto a pier lined with hanging fish. Mok holds out a tin cup and collects coins from the other soldiers. He lets them peek through bamboo blinds into a small boat. Inside, a fellow soldier is getting intimate with a naked woman. His friends watch eagerly through the gaps and start touching themselves. Soon, their angry captain arrives and catches Mok counting his coins. He yells at Mok and orders him to do frog jumps on the pier. Then the captain bursts inside the boat to scold the half-naked soldier. Instead of listening, Mok and a friend toss a heavy fishing net over the captain. The panicked recruits quickly flee the area on their bicycles. The strong captain breaks free and blocks their dirt path. For punishment, the captain forces the group to do push-ups in the shallow ocean water. The tired men soon start tackling each other and splashing in the waves. Meanwhile, Mok's brother Mek sits on a fallen tree with his girlfriend Pen. Pen wears a white dress and tearfully reveals she is pregnant. Mek smiles warmly and is overjoyed by this wonderful news. He opens a golden pocket watch to reveal a shiny ring. Mek slides the ring onto her finger, and Pen happily accepts. Suddenly, a frantic fisherman splashes out of his small boat. He runs toward them and screams about approaching enemy ships. Soon after, Thai officers gather inside a dark, smoky room. They hold a tense negotiation meeting with the Japanese team. Dr. Kaito leans over a large map and draws arrows. He explains Japan needs to move toward India and China, so they want to use Thailand as a military base. He also requests that the Thai government provide necessary provisions. Kaito asks for war funds to support their campaign too. To make his point, Kaito points to a small screen. A running projector displays footage of their biological weapon experiments. In the old film, a man thrashes in a bed. Suddenly, his head splits open to reveal a monstrous face. Kaito calmly states that Japan does not wish to fight allies. However, he warns they will use the weapon if Thailand resists. The Thai commander wearing sunglasses finally agrees to cooperate. He explains his men must fight first and surrender later. This fake show of resistance will help minimize unnecessary casualties. Soldiers prepare for battle across the military base. Mok abandons his post and runs home. He reaches a wooden house on stilts. Soon, a captain arrives with a cigarette in his mouth. Mok hides behind the wooden stairs. The captain says all soldiers must report for duty. The mother wants to protect her sons. She talks to the officer to distract him. She holds a knife while glancing at family photos. Meanwhile, Mok grabs a green backpack and sneaks out. He sprints past the tall palm trees. He suddenly bumps into his brother, Mek. Mek angrily calls Mok a coward for fleeing. Mok raises his hand in a mocking salute. He taps his forehead and refuses to be killed. He reminds Mek that he never wanted military life. Mek reveals that Mok will soon be an uncle. Mok is surprised by the unexpected news. He begs his brother to escape together. Mek shakes his head and refuses. He must stay to protect his loved ones. Mek turns and walks away through the jungle. Mok is left entirely alone. He sits down against a large tree trunk. He stares ahead and struggles with his choice. Japanese soldiers mercilessly massacre Thai forces on the sandy shore. Bullets fly as bleeding bodies collapse into the red ocean. Mok crouches behind a broken barrier with his terrified squad. The young men huddle tightly together to hide from the heavy gunfire. An angry officer suddenly shouts orders and demands they attack. A loud shot blows his head back, killing him instantly. Seeing the officer die, a panicked Mok grabs his teammates. He desperately urges them to retreat, and the surviving group scrambles away. Elsewhere on the bloody beach, a damaged wooden crate washes onto the sand. The lid shifts open, and a snarling zombie pulls itself out. Later, the fleeing soldiers sprint through a dense watery forest. A blurry figure strikes quickly from the trees, violently snatching the men one by one. Panting heavily, Mok stops running and looks around in pure horror. He realizes he is completely alone in the silent woods. Taking a step backward, his boots plunge into deep mud. He struggles wildly, but the muddy swamp quickly swallows his body. Within seconds, the dark, murky water covers his head entirely. Suddenly, a bloody hand plunges deeply into the murky puddle. It grabs Mok's uniform and forcefully drags him out into the air. Mok heavily gasps for air and quickly wipes his muddy face. Looking up, he screams at the horrible sight of his rescuer. A heavily decayed, drooling monster angrily glares back at him. Mok turns his head and realizes his missing squad surrounds the muddy pit. He sees that they have all become dangerous, infected zombies. In a dim office, Thai military leaders and Kaito listen to a broadcast. A portrait hangs behind a seated officer wearing dark glasses. The news confirms the government ordered a ceasefire and is negotiating with Japan. Soon after, a patrol walks through a palm tree forest. A commander inspects a bloody rib cage hanging from a rope. A soldier pulls the rope line, making the tied bones rattle loudly. loudly. This sudden noise alerts the hidden zombies to attack. The troops quickly fire their weapons, dropping the infected attackers onto the grass. The men take cover behind the tall palm trunks as the gunfire stops. They carefully stand back up, but the fallen bodies have completely vanished. The squad turns around and discovers a horrifying sight. A zombie holds the top half of their commander's severed head. The bloody creature greedily chews on the man's gory face. More screaming monsters rush out from the trees to surround them. They violently ambush the panicked remaining men. A glowing radio sits on a wooden crate inside a military tent. It broadcasts a message about a successful government ceasefire agreement. Thailand and Japan are now allies, so all citizens must cooperate. Outside in the busy camp, a distraught woman searches for her husband. Pan, a nurse wearing a white uniform, steps in to comfort her. She kneels down and gently embraces the woman's crying young daughter. Pan wipes the little girl's tears and makes a pinky promise to find the man. Sometime later, Mek arrives to investigate a ruined forest encampment. He wears wire-rimmed glasses and holds his rifle at the ready. The quiet campsite is deserted and covered with scattered pools of blood. He finds only severed body parts resting near a smoldering campfire. Mek hears a sudden rustling noise and approaches a hidden dirt pit. He pushes aside some palm leaves and aims his weapon downwards. He spots the motionless body of a fallen soldier lying inside. Mek secures a thick rope around a blood-stained palm tree nearby. He grips the line firmly and climbs down into the dark hole. At the bottom, Mek carefully touches the man's uniform shoulder. The figure turns to reveal a completely mangled, faceless head. The terrifying creature immediately lunges forward, so Mek grabs a loose spike. He wrestles the snarling monster away and drives the wood into its skull. Despite the violent strike, the undead monster continues thrashing wildly. Mek turns away and frantically climbs up the thick rope. The zombie snatches his ankle and drags him back down. Mek crashes onto the dirt, spilling his metal pocket watch. He quickly snatches a smoldering branch and thrusts it into the zombie's face. The creature's head erupts in flames, finally ending the gruesome fight. A hot, glowing ember flies up and strikes Mek in the eye. On the white sand beach, Mok wakes up among bloody, severed heads. Maggots crawl over the chewed bodies scattered across the ground. A yellow butterfly flutters and lands directly on his bloody eye. Mok stares blankly and remembers the horrific events from the forest. He realizes he was bitten and transformed into a zombie. During the massacre, the undead horde feasted on the villagers. Several zombies violently ripped the intestines out of a woman. Nearby, Mok lunged over a clay jar to attack a hiding little girl. Back in the present, Mok sits helplessly on the sand. He screams loudly at the sky in pure frustration. He finally understands that he is now a monster. At the military camp, Mek stands inside a dark tent. His face is heavily bruised as he reports his encounter. Kaito listens closely and touches a long, empty wooden box. He desperately asks Mek for the location of the creatures. Kaito then opens a case and loads a film reel. He plays the vintage footage to review the old research. The black and white video shows a virus tested on laboratory mice. The first group of infected mice displayed extreme combat strength. They viciously attacked and cannibalized each other inside the cage. However, the second group of surviving mice showed different results. They moved with much greater speed but never attacked anyone. This proved the second group retained some level of self-control. In the forest, Mok wanders past several impaled corpses. He stares at a severed body on the ground without reacting. Near the spike pit, Mok spots a golden pocket watch. He picks the watch up and clicks it open. An old photograph of his parents sits inside. Mok stares at the picture and begins to cry. Tears mix with the blood on his dirty face. Soon, his sad cries turn into a vicious roar. Around him, the other infected soldiers start roaring too. At the medical tents, Mek searches for his missing brother. He wears a thick white bandage over his injured eye. Mek checks the resting patients but cannot find Mok. Suddenly, a nearby survivor speaks up from a cot. The injured man claims he saw Mok earlier. Mek desperately grabs the man's white shirt. He frantically demands to know the exact location. His commander suddenly enters the tent to interrupt them. The commander orders Mek to attend the meeting immediately. In the main tent, a Japanese officer is scolded for losing the box. The kneeling man suddenly shouts out in deep shame. He forcefully plunges a knife into his own stomach to end his life. Mek and his commanders enter the dimly lit tent. Kaito, a Japanese officer with round glasses, explains the situation. A dangerous biological weapon recently escaped from the missing box. This weapon can transform other people into immortal zombies. The Thai commander immediately wants to report this alarming news. However, Captain Nakamura speaks up from the back of the room. He strictly forbids them from telling anyone else about this. Nakamura steps forward from the shadows to explain his plan. He hands the Thai commander a document with a large red stamp. This official paper comes directly from the Thai military leaders. It forces Mikan, his commander, to join the special task force. Their strict orders are to capture all the zombies alive. In the gloomy forest, Mach stands still and watches the other blood-covered zombies. They ravenously eat any body they find on the dirt. He suddenly remembers chasing the terrified little girl. He realizes he ate her without mercy. This dark thought fills his mind with heavy guilt. Sobbing, Mach picks up a heavy gun and points it at his temple to end his life. Suddenly, his body rapidly heats up. His skin secretes a strange dark liquid, and his hands instantly burst into flames. Before his whole body burns, a running zombie tackles him hard into a muddy puddle. It frantically slaps thick mud over his face to extinguish the dangerous flames. Meanwhile, Kaido sits in a dim tent and continues reviewing the research. He watches an old film of a rat. When a larger virus dose was injected, the reaction was positive. Kaido writes notes with a fountain pen. He discovers that during stressful or emotional moments, infected specimens were capable of sudden self-combustion. Kaido realizes the zombie's ultimate weakness is fire. He looks at photos of test subjects. When the virus was tested in humans, it began to rapidly evolve. Later, Mach opens his eyes on the damp floor of a dark cave. His face is covered in dried mud as the other zombies slowly wake up around him. Pack leader Nobu carries a dead black animal inside. The hungry creatures hiss and approach, but Nobu unleashes a deafening roar to establish dominance. Once Nobu walks away, the others aggressively scramble toward the carcass. Moke watches from behind a rock and spots Nobu sitting alone in a dark corner. Nobu unfolds a small note and holds 2 old photographs. Tears stream down the zombie's face as he looks at them. This makes Mach reach into his own pocket. He pulls out an old compass case to reveal small photos of his parents. He remembers a sunny afternoon when a military captain visited to recruit his brother, Mech. Mach stood nearby wearing a carved pomelo skin on his head. He was excited to finally get his brother's bed. Using a comb as a microphone, he happily sang a mocking song. He playfully saluted and joked about Meke dying in battle. His family stared at him in clear annoyance. Back in the cold cave, tears run down Mach's muddy face. He listens to Nobu howling in the shadows and feels a deep connection to his tragic sorrow. Mach follows Nobu out of the cave and walks across wet rocks. He spots the small photograph floating in the shallow water. Nearby, Nobu stands completely still in the rocky river. He stares forward, hallucinating the ghostly figure of his wife in a dark kimono. His wife speaks softly to him and recites the poem. This causes Nobu immense grief, and blood streams down his face. He screams out in pure agony, and his body suddenly disintegrates into scattered black ash. The dark ash settles on the riverbank, causing tiny yellow flowers to bloom. Meanwhile, the infected pack aggressively tears into a large dead animal. They rip out bloody chunks of meat, yet their hunger remains. One zombie pauses and struggles to speak. He angrily reminds his friends that the Japanese changed them. He urges the pack to hunt the soldiers for revenge. In the jungle, the armed task force discovers a horrific massacre. A bloody, severed leg rests on a dirt mound, swarming with flies. Scattered flesh covers the ground. Nakamura steps over the remains, and his soldiers carefully follow the muddy footprints to track the infected. Hearing a noise nearby, Nakamura signals his team to crouch behind the bushes. He pulls out a knife, removes his glove, and slices his forearm to spill fresh blood. An infected man smells the blood and quickly approaches Nakamura. The snarling creature lunges forward, but a hidden soldier fires a harpoon into its chest. At the dark camp, the captured zombie sits chained inside a metal cage. 2 soldiers wearing gas masks carry a large, steaming pot. They splash the boiling water over the screaming creature. Mech angrily confronts the officers. He calls the treatment torture and argues they should just kill the monster. Kaido calmly refuses. He explains they are keeping the zombies alive to study their behavior. Suddenly, the creature yanks the bloody harpoon straight out of his chest. He violently shakes the iron cage bars. A soldier quickly draws a pistol and fires several loud shots. The bleeding zombie collapses in agony, but he miraculously survives the gunfire. Later, soldiers drag an older civilian man to the holding cell. The captive zombie immediately recognizes the man as his father. He reaches a bloody hand through the bars. Both of them weep bitterly. The devastated father cries out and asks what they did to his child. Nakamura suddenly drives a knife into the father's head. The trapped zombie screams loudly behind the iron bars. Make suddenly lunges forward and punches Nakamura in the face. The commander quickly grabs Mech and drags him safely backward. The commander firmly reminds Mech they have no authority here. A masked soldier turns a valve on a metal cylinder. Poison gas begins flowing slowly into the dark room. The crying zombie desperately reaches for his dead father. Mech fiercely struggles again, but the commander tightly restrains him. Nakamura draws his sharp sword and aims it at them. He sternly sternly orders the commander to control his men. The commander reluctantly tells Mek he is now discharged. He orders the angry soldier to leave the base immediately. Thick green gas pours down heavily from the ceiling. The monster pulls hard against his chains and breaks free. The soldiers watch in pure shock through the thick smoke. The escaped creature crouches down and eats his father's flesh. Mok returns to the dark cave covered in thick blood. He finds the other tired zombies resting on the rocks. The group sadly discusses their past lives together in the dark. They all had big dreams, but they had to abandon them. They had to join the army against their own will. One zombie admits he wanted to sing, so he slowly shares a song. The other zombies join him, and they all sing the sad melody together. Suddenly, a zombie looks around and realizes their friend is missing. The group agrees to search for him, so they stand up to leave. In a nearby village, locals gather around a bright fire. A painted man dances during a special ritual to keep evil creatures away. Meanwhile, Pen slowly rides her bicycle through the dark woods. She stops in the dirt to fix her broken front light. Suddenly, she sees something moving and screams in terror at severed walking legs. Soon, the undead group invades the village and violently eats the terrified locals. A terrified mother tightly hugs her young, crying daughter nearby. They watch the bloody attack and realize a monster is their beloved father. Tarn sits on the wooden floor and prays. She looks out the window into the dark yard. She spots a distant figure slowly approaching the house. Unaware it is Mok, she quickly pulls the wooden shutters closed. She then walks over to a framed photo on the wall. Tarn reaches out and gently touches the picture. Later, she steps outside onto the dark balcony. Mek suddenly appears from the shadows and startles her. He quickly tells her to stay inside the house. Mek explains that his brother Mok might still be alive. Tarn feels deeply relieved and hugs him tightly. Hidden in the darkness below, Mok watches them. He cries silently, realizing he cannot reunite with his family. Suddenly, a terrified Pen rushes up to the porch. She immediately tells them about the horrifying creature she saw. Mek quickly pulls out a large shotgun. He hands the weapon to Tarn for protection. He orders her to shoot anything strange she sees. If the creature keeps moving, he tells her to burn it. Deep in the forest, a monk meditates behind a thin green net. A bloody zombie steps out from the dark trees. The monk immediately recognizes the creature as his son. He speaks to him and begins chanting a prayer. The monster falls heavily onto the dirt path. He clasps his shaking hands together to pray as well. After a short time, the zombie slowly crawls away. Nearby, a little girl trips and falls onto the dark forest floor. Her zombified father quickly catches up to his family. The young child cries out for her dad. The monster suddenly stops in his tracks upon recognizing his daughter. Two Thai officers silently arrive at the tense scene. One soldier raises his pistol to shoot the creature. The commander quickly pushes his arm down to stop him. The zombie stammers his daughter's name and tries to speak. The crying girl reaches out and gently touches his bloody cheek. She sobs uncontrollably because her father is badly hurt. The monster slowly raises his hand to touch her face. Suddenly, a Japanese task force steps out from the trees. The panicked mother forcefully drags her daughter away. The Japanese soldiers fire a heavy harpoon at the monster. The flying spike completely misses its intended target. Instead, it brutally impales both the woman and child against a thick tree. Dozens of other zombies suddenly charge out of the dark woods. The armed soldiers quickly ready their weapons and open fire. The Thai commander realizes the zombies are his own soldiers. He draws his weapon and shoots at the Japanese troops. Sadly, his right-hand officer is immediately shot down and killed. The commander takes several bullets and slumps against a large tree. He spots Moke among the infected soldiers in the darkness. He weakly tells Moke to run before he finally dies. Moke grabs the commander's uniform with shaking hands and cries. Meike suddenly enters the dark clearing and looks around in horror. The infected zombies are violently eating the fallen task force. Meike watches a creature rip a bloody ribcage from a dead man's chest. Mek aims his pistol and notices Mok kneeling on the ground. Realizing his brother is a monster, Mek fires into his shoulder. Mok softly calls his brother's name while slowly running forward. Mek immediately raises his weapon and shoots his brother again. A desperate Mok stops moving and continues to beg him. Mek holds his gun steady with tears in his eyes. He pulls the trigger and fires for a third time. The shot knocks Mok backwards, sending him off a steep cliff. Mek drops to his knees and yells loudly into the night. He cries in grief, feeling deep guilt for his terrible actions. Suddenly, Mok leaps up from the cliff edge and violently attacks. Moments later, Mek slowly wakes up on the rocky ground. He examines his dark hands and realizes he is a zombie too. Inside a dark room at the base, Kaido stands by a humming projector. He warns Nakamura Jr. that his father's plan to keep the creatures alive is far too dangerous. Kaido loads a film reel into the machine. The black and white video displays a burning creature and strange ash mutating a plant. Watching the screen, Nakamura Jr. angrily accuses Kaido Kaito of treason. Kaito calmly accepts the charge while adjusting his glasses. He firmly explains he would rather be a traitor than allow these monsters to cause more destruction. The next morning, military trucks arrive at a large wooden building. Surviving civilians, including Pen, Tarn, and a monk in orange robes, are escorted inside the structure. Inside the room, the group gathers around a large chalkboard. Black and white portraits of the young Thai recruits hang there. A soldier claims their bodies were found and need identification. Seeing the familiar faces, the civilian mothers instantly break down. They weep loudly and hold on to each other in absolute devastation. Back in the dim storage room, Nakamura secures a padlock on a large wooden crate holding a captured zombie. He then tells a Thai commander they must execute all the civilians to silence any eyewitnesses. Nakamura states that the official report will simply label the dead as tragic war casualties. The Thai commander looks disturbed and strongly objects to killing his people. However, Nakamura coldly reveals that both governments have already agreed to the ruthless plan. Deep inside a dark cave, Mok discovers several zombies feasting on a body. He gently touches the victim's bloody face. He quickly recognizes an old friend. Mok screams in pure anger at the creatures. The hungry pack immediately tackles him to the ground. Mok sees his brother struggling and charges into the brawl. He reveals his new incredible physical strength. Mok easily throws the entire group aside. He stands tall and unleashes a furious roar. The intimidated zombies quickly drop down to their knees. Just then, a wounded zombie limps into the cavern. He explains he was brutally tortured before finally escaping. The newcomer also shares terrible news about their family. He warns that their parents will be executed soon. Mok argues this is obviously a trap to lure them outside. However, Mech angrily grabs his brother's shirt. He refuses to abandon their family and calls Mok a coward again. A soldier leads the group of civilians through a dry forest. The worried parents loudly call out for their missing sons. Nakamura watches them through his binoculars from a hidden spot. Nakamura Jr. steps up to speak with his father, but the older man completely ignores him. Suddenly, the civilians stop as zombies emerge from the bushes. The horrified parents break down crying when they recognize their boys. Then Nakamura lowers his hand to signal his waiting troop. The hidden soldiers shoot their machine guns at the group. The helpless civilians are quickly gunned down and drop dead. The screaming zombies quickly run to hold their dying families. Mulk desperately clings to his bleeding mother on the ground. Meek catches Pen as she falls from a gunshot wound. She coughs up dark blood and dies in his arms. After a brief hesitation, Meek sinks his teeth into her neck. He transforms the young girl to keep her from dying. Nakamura pushes a detonator button inside a small wooden box. A heavy metal cage suddenly drops from the trees above. It crashes into the dry leaves, trapping all the zombies inside. A Japanese soldier hurries over and secures the gate with a padlock. Inside the cage, Moke desperately holds his mother's lifeless body. She remains completely dead and fails to transform. Suddenly, a zombie reaches through the iron bars and fiercely bites the soldier's arm. The injured man screams in pain and retreats to his squad. He collapses to the dirt in agony and mutates into a monster. The newborn zombie immediately lunges at his fellow Japanese soldiers. Nakamura instantly draws his sword and slices the attacker's throat. The furious zombies aggressively shake the cage. Mech grabs the iron gate and easily snaps the padlock with his incredible strength. The infected break free and attack the terrified task force. They tackle and brutally bite the soldiers. The fallen Japanese troops quickly rise as new zombies. A horrified Nakamura tosses 2 grenades. A massive fiery explosion engulfs the area. The blast destroys a few creatures, but the rest escape into the dark woods. Deep in the dark forest, Pen slowly gets used to being a zombie. She stumbles awkwardly over leaves in her bloody white dress. Later, Mech stands on a rocky cliff holding a stolen sword. He demands violent revenge as his eyes turn entirely pitch black. Moving to a high ridge, he delivers an angry speech to the remaining zombies. The undead crowd wars back to show their strong support. However, Mok frowns in deep concern over his brother's dark ideas. He hates the plan to create more infected creatures for their army. He does not want others to suffer their terrible curse. A zombie with a severely burned face steps forward to complain. He argues that this bitter revenge will only cause more useless death. Maka furiously raises his blade to strike down the protester. Suddenly, Pen throws herself in the way to shield the man. The sharp weapon accidentally slices right through her exposed neck. She instantly collapses lifeless onto the dark, leafy forest floor. Moke screams out in absolute agony over the sudden loss. Mech just stares straight ahead with numb, empty black eyes. He ruthlessly stabs the burned zombie anyway without any hesitation. Then he turns to the silent crowd to continue his plan. The next morning, Mock wakes up lying on the forest floor. Covered in blood, he slowly stands up. Traumatic memories flash through his mind as he looks at the trees. He is unable to handle so many painful emotions. Suddenly, he sees a hallucination of his parents and sister. Black ash blows off his face, and his body begins turning into dust. However, he remembers his brother calling him a coward who refuses to fight. The floating ash reverses direction and covers his face, returning him to his zombie shape. Back at the base, Nakamura enters Kaito's tent and shoots him in the forehead. He searches a desk and finds Kaito's notebook. After seeing a page showing a burning body, he realizes the zombies are weak to fire. He immediately orders his men to get the flamethrower. Nakamura and his soldiers track two fleeing zombies up a steep rocky path. The fast chase leads them directly into a dark cave entrance. Inside, the men use flashlights until thousands of glowing blue fireflies suddenly illuminate the ceiling. Without warning, all the bright bugs vanish into the pitch black. The hidden zombies shriek and lunge from the dark shadows. The soldiers fire their weapons, but the bullets fail to stop the charging monsters. The undead quickly tackle the panicked men and bite them. A soldier blasts a stream of fire, forcing the terrified zombies to retreat. The squad chases them and finds the horde feeding on a fallen comrade. They open fire once more and retreat inside a narrow rock passage. The zombies quickly rush into the narrow, dark tunnel. They viciously attack and kill the panicked Japanese soldiers. Nakamura escapes the bloody slaughter and slowly crawls away in the dark. He eventually slips and falls heavily into a deep puddle of thick mud. Frantic, he grabs handfuls of wet dirt and scoops it over his face and uniform. He freezes and presses his entire body tightly against the dark rock wall. The undead stumble right past his hidden spot without noticing him. Nakamura slowly creeps forward with his heavy weapon held ready. Suddenly, a bright firefly buzzes very close to his head. The glowing blue light instantly exposes his muddy face. The monsters immediately stop and turn back toward him. He aims the flamethrower, but mud completely blocks the nozzle. The violent horde quickly overpowers him and bites his flesh. The dead Japanese troops begin rising from the cave floor. Mock stands at the bright cave entrance, blocking the path. He holds the heavy flamethrower as his zombified teammates stagger forward. Tears stream down Mock's dirty face. He sees his brother Mech among the undead. Mech stops moving and stares back at him. Slowly, Mech's black eyes clear and return to normal. The infected soldier raises his hand in a weak salute. Mock screams in agony and pulls the weapon's trigger. A massive blast of fire engulfs his former comrades. Suddenly, Nakamura's transformed squad rushes from the darkness. The burning Thai soldiers immediately grapple with the Japanese enemies to spread the fierce flames. A memory of his squad laughing in the ocean flashes by. Mock drops his weapon and charges screaming into the inferno. Thanks for watching.